ordinance.
Yeah. Turn on for you. I could see if I can turn it on without turning all the other ones off.
Yeah. Oh. Wow, look at that.
Well, that's, I'll call to order this first 2024 meeting of the Public Works Committee. I can just ask you to state your name before we get started. Mr. Merzinski, would you start, please?
I'm sorry?
Would you state your name, please?
I'm Mike Merzinski, Finance Director. I'm over here reading the book. Sorry.
Chris Workman, City Manager.
Causey, City Council.
Kevin Fair, Public Works.
Christopher McLaurin, City Council.
Gary Black, Public Works Operations.
Oh, thank you for saving my memory for me to do all that. And I do want to remind everyone tomorrow's Groundhog Day.
Oh. I forgot about that. Thank you.
We have the day off.
Would you like the day off?
No.
Trick question.
All right, and I see that our first order of business is the election of the Public Works Chair.
Anyone? Anyone?
I'd be happy to do.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense.
Are there any other nominees?
I'd be happy to do it, but I don't want to. We need to change.
Well, didn't you just volunteer for like 2 or 3 other?
For one, yeah, the byway, but yeah.
And you know what a burden it is.
Yes, yeah.
Well, but if you'd like to nominate yourself,
I'm just saying, if you want to take a break, I'm happy to. But
no, I love Public Works.
well, good. I think that makes 3 of us.
Although it's hard to choose between Public Works and police.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
I think now Matt has to nominate.
I'm not nominating anyone. Yes. Are you seconding? I will second the nomination. Sure.
Perfect.
All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. All right, the next order of business is the minutes, January 4th. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
So moved. A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion. Order of business is the capital improvement plan review. Someone else is that.
I'll handle some of it.
Okay.
We went through at the last meeting and we've got some updated pricing, I believe. We've also had an addition at 16th Street, the water line portion was left off. Mainly because the water line down 16th is fairly recent and are in good shape, but I didn't take into account that we're running a water line from 16th over to 17th, so that's what that covers. It's other little section there.
Is that the new one you were talking about this morning?
Yes, 495. Yes. Other than that, there wasn't any changes to water plan.
I have a question about the generator.
We canceled the order.
Mr. Beard.
Pacific Power said no more power outages, don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my question is actually, if the grant for it came in.
Haven't heard on the grant yet.
Oh.
So, waiting.
When do you expect it here?
I don't think their final due stuff wasn't until the end of January, so just like
Oh.
yesterday. So it'll be another
That's,
month or two, I would think. We'll know.
okay, thank you. Any other questions on that page?
I do have a quick question. I'm sure we covered it last month, so I feel kind of silly, but the 4 columns outside of the table say total project cost, total expense to date, the budgeted expense from the current fiscal year, and then the projected balance for what's left over. The math isn't working in my
Yeah.
brain.
I haven't touched that part yet. Kevin's been filling in the red stuff here. I have not gone in and put final numbers in yet. Matt or Ruth, I mean, I know y'all are looking for that. As soon as everything settles here, I'm gonna start punching numbers into them. I'm working on the rates right now, the rate projection. And that's gonna come into play for just about everything. So Kevin just put the projects together, the prior numbers, the stuff in black is from last year, and nothing's changed. I will change that and bring it to council into this month.
Yeah, we still have to look at the revenues and existing SDCs and which portion of projects are SDC eligible, which ones aren't. So that still needs to happen, but we wanted to get the project list in front of this body to make sure we're at the project list before we start working on it, figure out how everything was getting paid for. So that's our next task, is to figure out how to pay for all of this.
So right now, we're just saying, yes, we acknowledge that these are on the capital improvement plan, and here's what we estimate it's gonna cost.
Correct.
Okay.
And looking at the next, looking 3 years out essentially.
They wanted to cancel the generator and move that funding somewhere else. We didn't want to take that into account ahead of time.
We wanted to buy more decorative streetlights.
That
That's it.
was it.
Yeah.
Well, we missed you last month.
I guess so. Counselor Benoit.
I guess on that, I was just a little trying to understand the North 16th Street water line. It says the total project cost is $150,000 with $140,000 projected in 24-25 and then $150,000 projected in 26-27.
I agree, I noticed that too.
So I get, how much does it cost and when are we spending them?
Maybe they did it wrong and they're planning.
Yeah. There between 24-25 and 26-27.
I think that's what I did when I put in the 16th Street. I probably shifted things down the wrong way and didn't move that over. There shouldn't be anything in 24-25.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for that. I think we're planning on doing that in 26-27.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
The only thing I've got a question, not really a question, are we gonna need that 20 on the aquifer? Are we gonna need that 23.5 and 25-26? We've already put 15,000 aside this year. But there's a carry forward for it. Should that just be another 8,005? And we're gonna spend the 15 this year, or next year, I should say.
We would be spending all of it 25-26, yes.
Okay, so that should just be 15 out there? Cause that's gonna be a carry forward. We got money, we put money aside for it this year.
Right. And we're not doing it this year, so if we do it next year, we're looking at probably 23.
Maybe 24, 25 next year, so it won't be out 25, 26.
No, 25-26.
Okay, so we're
Sorry.
not doing it, we're just gonna sit on this money for 2 years? Okay, you a little confused or?
I'm a lot confused.
Okay, last year, this was a project that we set aside. We've been putting 15, by the end of the year, you'll have 15,000 set aside for the project. So we're gonna kick it out to 2025?
That was my understanding, right, Chris? We were doing 25, 26 on the aquifer test. And we figured
Okay,
we had,
And the cost was gonna go up from 15 to 23.
so all we need to do is put 8.5.
I think that 15 is coming from the master plan, which is now like 5 years old. So the 23 is the updated number. Okay. And it'll be for 25, 26.
So we should update that total
We
project
can update
cost.
your total project cost to 23.5. Okay.
Okay.
So there's nothing we're spending on that this year. Okay.
Okay, then just one last question. For the engineering, it says 600 total cost. We've already spent 589. And then, but we're expecting another 300,000 go out this year. Or 24, 25.
yes, I believe that's for the construction portion of the plant. We had pre-engineering, feasibility, and then the full engineering and construction and everything that goes with that.
So do we need to update the total project cost?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, probably should.
So it'll be 889,202.
Other question? Other questions on this page?
I think that's good.
Do we have a water conservation plan?
Who? Haven't looked at it in a while. It's updated, but we have one.
We're on sewer now, right? Is that right?
She was on the back page of water.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I mean, I guess just kind of similar questions on here with like the 16th Street sewer, where the total project cost is 375 and it's budgeted for 570.
Same issue. 570, 375 is the master plan.
Oh, okay.
570 is the update.
Okay.
And actually, when I filled these out, I just got the engineer estimate
Okay.
on the updated one, so.
We can update total project costs. Reflect the updated numbers from the engineer.
And then how much are we paying in the sewer bond?
About 240,000 a year.
Okay.
That'll go up probably to 240, somewhere between 240 and 250, because it's gonna go up now, no, it'll be close, pretty close to the same.
Okay.
I'm thinking the interest, that's principal and interest.
Okay.
Mike, do you remember when that gets paid off?
Not off the top of my head. It's probably got about 10 years left.
this page.
North 11th,
Yes,
it's done.
it's done.
We've done what we're doing with it right now.
For, are we on streets?
Yeah, we are in streets.
For South 16th, for engineering and everything, I just wanted to make sure that's still accurate, like, since I know, okay. Cause like the school board had wanted like a driveway and everything, I don't know if that affected, like the, okay, cool.
We had, they want a driveway
Curb cut.
Yeah,
on the west side or the east side?
like the south side.
South side.
Or on the south side?
Yeah,
South side.
Okay. Yeah, it should
okay.
be minimal.
What's the question mark in the streetscape improvement?
I didn't know where we were with that when I popped that in.
Oh, okay.
So it's $1 million, is that, because it's only $1 million from the city for streetscapes?
That was for the, I think it was for the bioswale, wasn't it, Chris? Our portion of it?
No, that came out of, well, maybe.
I haven't seen a bill for you.
We've got a few different places it's coming from, but no, I mean, this is just street, so it's going to pay for street improvements along highway, sidewalks, whatever you wanna call it. I mean, it wasn't really earmarked for a specific thing. It was the city's $1 million contribution towards the project.
But that's our total like, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that won't go up. That's our contribution.
But I mean, like, is so? Okay, yeah. Then there's 300 in storm drain too. Okay, okay,
Right. Cool. And that'll come out this year.
okay.
Maybe they'll wrap up the project 24, 25, so we'll just carry that over to this year.
Okay. So, and then for 11th Street, did that come in under budget? Or what am I reading there with the total project cost 343, expenses 270?
I don't know if it had the updated numbers on what the final project cost came out. Regardless, are the 13th Street lights coming out of streets, or do we have that funded elsewhere?
It should come out of, well, it's, some of it's ARPA funds, some of it'll be street. Yeah, but we should have it on streets.
And wasn't some of it gonna be urban renewal too? What we,
It was street and it was gonna be contingency. Whatever ARPA didn't cover, we're gonna pull from contingency.
So we just need to add that to this list, right?
Yep.
Is that, do you remember, Chris?
So 160 total. Trying to remember the number off the top of my head of how much of that was ARPA and how much that was gonna be contingency. I have to go back and look.
And then on 19th Street, the county's not doing that until 24, 25, or 25, 26 now.
They wanted to do it this summer, but we talked them into holding off until the next,
Gotcha. Okay.
until 25.
What are they doing on 19?
They're going to grind the whole surface of 19th from Chapel to Industrial Drive and repave.
Oh my.
but just when you thought we were done with road construction,
Just 19th Street.
I think, I know I said it last time, but I would love if we can just check in with the county about, like, if we can do some of those school safety things as part of that project.
The crossing specifically.
Right, right. And if there was anything else on that report that would apply, but yeah.
Are you gonna put in your roundabout?
No, not my roundabout. When did it become my roundabout?
It's always been your roundabout.
I think the plan is to see what the demand on 19th and Applegate is once 16th Street's able to punch through to Cedar. The intent is for that to pull a lot of that traffic off of there, and so we may not need something as substantial as a roundabout. I still think there may be some other improvements there, but it may not be the roundabout.
Any other questions on the streets? Move on to storm drain.
Throughout the street, can we call them traffic safety circles instead of roundabouts? That's really what we're targeting before we go on from there too far. Safety circles. Councilor Lehman, do you like that?
I think that that's the weapon of people that realize that the roundabouts are not popular, so we come up with a different name for them.
Traffic safety circle.
Yeah, that's just, doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't really impart what it actually is, which is a roundabout.
The roundabout way of saying we're gonna
Is there,
focus on safety.
I know they're coming up, but is there a narrative anywhere for the Applegate Street bike lane and 19th Street and Applegate, just since they're not included on here?
Part of the streetscapes.
That was when we,
But it,
There is specific language in the TSP that we could pull into there in the
Okay.
description.
We're going back to streets now.
that one,
I was just curious what it was.
Oh.
Yeah, what we were pulling off.
it's moving, or it's limiting parking on one side of Applegate and striping it with a bike lane.
Do you know where on Applegate?
It's not in, well, it's right by the high school.
Oh, okay.
15th to 19th.
And why did
Okay.
you pull it off? You just didn't want to do it.
We decided to go after some low hanging fruit first.
Okay.
On some of the other transportation safety issues. And then I think people end up losing parking on
Yes.
either one side or the other, so
Different.
Yeah.
didn't have the bandwidth to deal with that, I guess, at this time.
Okay.
So is there or is there not gonna be a striped bike lane on Applegate Street?
Eventually, yes.
Not in the next 3 years.
Okay.
Unless we're directed otherwise.
Just wanna make sure, as people ask. Like, where's that bike lane gonna go? Okay.
Ideally between 15th and 19th, and Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, it might be better spent resurfacing or that section of Applegate before we do any striping on it. With the wear on it, is that?
Maybe some.
Yeah.
It's all up.
But there is gonna be the bike track on Applegate as part of the Streetscapes project, right?
Yeah, from 15th to 13th.
Okay, so then there'll just be kind of a gap then from 19.
Yeah, I mean, there's no marked bike path on Applegate Street, anything
Once
east
you
of.
get out of the
East of
culvert.
the high school.
Right now.
But I mean, cause there's bike lanes from the high school to like the church on Applegate.
I don't think it goes as far as the church, cause it turns into shared.
Not the, whatever the church is on the south side, not the church on, what? You know what I'm talking about?
Church,
What?
the Lutheran church, that's
Is
on
that
the
one on
south.
the south? Yeah, Peace Lutheran, cause there's the bike lanes on that part of Applegate, and then they end when you get to like 20, whatever, Street, you know, the one.
The one street that comes in.
Where it narrows, yeah.
Anyway, I think it would be worth us talking about at some point if just patching together all the sort of pieces of bike lane that we're gonna have on Applegate, especially because it's always bothered me too how there's no like you have the whole dedicated bike path from Corvallis all the way into Philomath, and then there's like 2 blocks without bike lanes, and then several blocks with bike lanes, like to the high school, or to the park, you know, and then there's like a bike path kind of through the high school, and then there's nothing from there until then we're gonna have this nice 2-way bike track from 15. So just at some point, and I feel like you know striping is not gonna cost us hundreds of thousands of. I mean, I don't think it does. Maybe I'm wrong.
Not that much,
Okay.
no.
I've always thought that would be really nice to have like a cohesive bike route that's not on Main Street and is connected.
The transition up at Couplet's pretty tough to, where if you're going up Applegate and you wanna like go to the elementary school,
Right.
that little, I don't think there's enough room to maintain the bike path in that
Isn't
transition.
that what is being put in now, the 15th to 13th?
Yeah, there'll be a bike track on the
Yeah.
south side of the highway there that'll go from 13th up to 15th.
Right.
But then from 15th over, there's not, well, part of that will be a bike crossing there too. So you'll go from what's anticipated to be the north side, the bike lane, and you'll transition and cross there and then make your way on the south side of Applegate once you cross over. But at some point, you need to get across the street from, as you said, Hunsaker Bike Path.
Right.
And on the far east end of town, at some point, you gotta get to the south side of the street to get to the
Right.
south side of the highway.
Right.
So it's where do you cross? And, you know, a good portion of that is a very localized road. I mean, from the high school east, you know, very, very low traffic counts. I don't think that cyclists feel unsafe driving on that road at all. This project that we were looking at there is really focused on more on school kids around the school and making sure that they've got a safe spot for the bikes. Cause again, you've got heavier traffic for pickup and drop off, and having dedicated spot, I think there makes sense, but, again, I think the only reason it really got pushed out is just because the work that needs to be done on Applegate and not striping it and then coming in the next year and tearing it up and having to restripe again. So I do think since eventually it will be there, it's just a matter of when does that happen before or after the maintenance on Applegate takes place. So, and I'm not sure what the extent of the work on Applegate is and where exactly that's located. You know, how far are we gonna be able to go there? So, I don't know. Maybe we're striping it now, and then if it's gonna be a few years before we do Applegate, we can come in and restripe it.
Next summer, I mean, just get over county and we can get in bike lanes. I wouldn't say it would cost more than $5,000. Paint and.
Although the sewer project goes 15th to 17th. Right out in the middle. Or I mean, it crosses, comes across.
We could restripe it for next summer, not this summer, but next summer after the project. Do it after we do that bit of work.
So then this one is from 15th to 19th. That's what this is talking about?
Right.
Okay. And would that be like a 2-way bike lane on one side or how?
Yeah, standardized bike lane
Okay.
on either the north or the south side. In my mind, it's always been on the north side, but it's,
So but it would only be one way? Because if it's only on one side.
right.
Okay.
I don't think you have enough space.
I was gonna say the road's pretty,
Yeah.
and then there's parking on that. And I know with the circulation study, there shouldn't be as much of a problem, but there is parking on the north side of that street and
Some,
it's utilized, especially by the school, it's utilized during pickup, for sure.
Okay. Okay, so there would just be one bike lane, like going west or something. Okay,
Or east, depending on which side of the street you put it on.
right, okay.
I think the intent was to try to get westbound bike lane traffic or westbound bike traffic to have safer passage through.
Okay.
The safety concern identified by ODOT wasn't about eastbound traffic from the highway. It was really about westbound bicycle traffic being able to cross where the couplet's coming back together again. And so that was the whole idea of doing that cycle track, was that once you hit 15th Street on your bike, on the south side of 15th Street, then you'd have a way to get to 13th and cross and get into the downtown without having trying to get across right when the couplet's coming back together there at 15th Street. So that was the purpose for the cycle track, was westbound bicycle traffic. And, you know, eastbound traffic can stay on the highway there and make that curve and, you know, make their way along there much safer, or they can dovetail off and take the ride onto Applegate without having to have their own lane, but the westbound is what needed the help. So
There's, yeah,
Does the TSP have a comprehensive bike vision in it?
yeah, I mean, it's throughout. I mean, I would say that the 2018 TSP is very, very heavy on bike lanes and adding that to. It recognizes that prior to previous versions of the TSP didn't have as much pedestrian connectivity and bicycle connectivity, and so this one has a very strong focus on that. So in fact, I'd say the vast majority of projects, if not dollar-wise, at least the number of projects in the TSP related to bicycle and walking bicycle paths is majority, for sure.
go to the storm drain now.
Sure.
Trying to jump ahead.
The only project we had, was the storm project for the 16th Street extension on that, and then we didn't identify any other, projects until we get the new plan.
Is the biofuel there?
On Ninth Street?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Great.
Go take a look, it's full of water.
It looked good when we drove by it.
I guess I didn't even notice it, so.
No. There's even little trees in there, I saw there.
They've lost a few already, beavers taking out a few trees already.
Oh, really?
Beavers.
How are the ducks treating it?
Really?
No problems, I bet.
All right.
The good news is there's no slugs there either. They've all been eaten.
We'll just note the storm master plan, that'll come to this committee, and we'll go through that and review that and start looking at it and help kind of populate priorities. So storm drain is one where probably this time next year, we'll have a better idea of some projects and some time. Master plan comes out.
Good. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna ask an off-topic question.
So was I.
Nice. I was sorry. Now my brain's thinking about all the paths. I just was for Mill Pond, because there's that new like path that goes along Chapel to 19th. You down to 13th?
15th.
15th, okay.
And then we've got a gap between 13th
Right,
and
it's
15th.
not, yeah, right.
Property that,
Okay. Is that in city limits or no?
so that's a good one for a small grant of some sort, because you're not gonna get, more than likely, we're not gonna see development there anytime soon. It's got a lot of flooding issues and everything else, so in order to connect that last two blocks.
Right.
15. But even then you get to 13th and now 13th is no beauty to walk on either, right? And so,
I don't wanna encourage people to go there, right?
yeah, so that may be one where we
And because
continue
13,
pressure on, the county to make a
Yeah.
move on 13th Street. And when those go in, that'd be a good time to finish up that bike pit path.
cause that doesn't even enter city limits until like halfway up, like Frolic and Rodeo grounds or something.
The rodeo grounds are inside.
Yeah, but I mean, the actual, like, 13th Street itself and like the houses on.
Right.
Yeah.
We got a block or, half block there. We'll get as far as 15th Street, so all of that connectivity will happen. You can get up and down 15th. Connect to that sidewalk, but it won't go west. Like I said, I don't envision going west of 13th.
No, I just, yeah.
Until 13th gets approved.
I forgot about that not being, yeah, okay. Your off-topic question.
My question is off, but it has to do with storm.
Oh, see, I was saying I was off topic. I was.
So I've been seeing in the minutes of the North 12th Street Road District that there's some conversation ongoing about drainage on 13th Street and 12th Street. But I feel like I'm playing the telephone game in that whatever you have been talking to the road district, and then they have the meeting, and then someone hears that and then puts it in the notes, and then what I'm reading says there's a conversation going on about doing something about the storm drainage on 13th and 12th Street. But I was wondering if there was actually any conversation going on about that at all.
Not with the road district. Yeah, there's been a few people called in, but for the most, there's, Buttermilk Creek. Is that part of Buttermilk Creek that goes through all the backyards? That's not,
Yeah.
It goes right through my backyard.
does it?
Yeah.
So, then there's been houses that have been built, people have filled and moving water all around, so there hasn't really been any discussions with dealing with it.
Okay.
I don't think that's a true statement.
Okay. I didn't want to say that officially in a public meeting, but I was curious because it didn't seem right to me.
Nobody's talking to me about it.
No, we've got a call from a couple of, like I say, from a couple homeowners that said they have a water problem and look up their property and they're built right on right where the drainage is. And then their neighbors, they're saying their neighbors are building up a wall or something and it's not draining. Well,
I've got 3 pipes from my neighbors that come into my back, like literally come into my backyard and then go through a ditch in my backyard. Yeah. Really interesting.
We have different regulations today than what we used to have.
Yeah. I consulted with someone about what I could do about that, and they're like, I wouldn't do anything if I were you. It's like, I can just put a stopper in there. Oh, that's not a good idea. Okay, thanks.
Okay. I have an off-topic question.
Hey.
Does it count? Plans to do about anything about South 13th where it floods? Can anything be done there apart from,
13th Chapel.
isn't it south of Chapel?
Yeah, and Fern,
Or is it?
that always floods there every year.
I don't know that there's any great plans. They were looking at a modernization project for South 13th Street about 8 years ago. And it got other priorities placed on top of it. 53rd and the roundabout came in about that time and some other things. So safety circle up there at 53rd.
I'm gonna stick.
And it's still there. It's on their list. It's in their TSP for the county. So they would like to improve 13th Street, but they haven't done any preliminary engineering or anything. I mean, right now it's a matter of priorities for them.
When you say improve it, like sidewalks and stuff.
Yeah, so modernization typically refers to essentially bringing it up to city standard, because they'd love to say, hey, once you get out of city limits, it's the city street.
Yeah.
It's functioning like a city street.
Yeah.
we would take over jurisdiction of it once it was built to city standard, but at
They
the
would-
time,
they would.
maintain it. So that's the carrot, is to have them fix it up, get sidewalks on both sides, get it the correct width.
Nice.
But the flooding makes it difficult. I mean, they have to figure out that drainage and what to do with all that water and getting it underneath and where it's going. And when you have a flooding event, it's not, when that area floods, it's not because water's just flowing, it's because the river's backing up into that area, right?
Right.
It's not like you could just move it without putting dikes on either side of the river
Yeah.
and flushing it through all the way Willamette, which would cause problems downstream from it. There's really not a great solution to keep that from flooding. It's a matter of, can you get a road through there during a flood that's not gonna be impassable? And
Isn't that designated as a floodway or something? Not-
there is a floodway through there, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's supposed to flood when it floods, so.
So just build a flyover.
A flyover, yeah, get it really high.
What I'm really saying is that 13th Street shouldn't exist anyway, basically.
Wow.
Or at least through part of the year, just expecting to be able to drive on it,
Is the county plan from Applegate to Chapel, or like, do you know what sort of where they were planning to?
The city was partnering with that
Okay,
ask. We were looking for money from Campo
okay,
to help fund that. And, a lot of the money that Campo gets is really for maintenance. It's not
Sure.
targeted for modernization or street improvement projects. It's really for bigger maintenance projects throughout the region. So it was competing with those maintenance projects,
Sure.
and Corvallis relies heavily on those funds. We've relied on those funds. So like 15th Street and Wilmouth, that's Campo money for that project, which is, it has its own need of improvements in addition to its own need of maintenance in addition to the improvements that we're making on 15th Street, which is really restriping and new signals and stuff. But it's tough for those modernization projects to compete with the maintenance projects, because the maintenance projects are so many of them.
okay. But it was that sector.
Space wise, yeah, Chapel, the city was interested, because it was Chapel all the way up to Applegate at that point. Well, Main Street at that point, we now have.
Oh, sure, okay. Okay.
The reason I ask is because anytime the city decides to undertake a street project, someone will say, why don't we fix 13th where it floods every year?
I think you're right, though, the county's gonna have to do something with 53rd Street before they do anything else.
Yeah, they do have a flyover plan for 53rd at the railroad, and it's extremely expensive. They're looking at federal funds for that, trying to get some money there. But again, you're talking how many days a year?
Right.
Is that
Oh,
not
yeah.
passable, and can you live without that road for a few days a year, and what's the cost of that? So there's a lot of analysis to go into it.
We just keep putting more and more people in there and not fixing the roads, just saying.
All of a sudden it becomes a priority.
Yeah,
Okay, any other off-topic?
not yet.
Okay.
Parks?
Sorry. Getting really good.
Yeah.
Good. We hope to have it done soon.
I'd like my dog to be the first one to pee in AstroTurf.
It's coming in next week, just bring the dog down.
All right.
It'll be in the shop, so.
Oh, perfect.
We won't get wet if it rains or anything.
Yeah, I'll just bring my dog down to the shop then.
Before it's in the ground.
Yeah, no, I thought this was an interesting question under pedestrian scale lighting in City Park.
Yeah, that was explained to me. It's closer to Google Ball Field where people actually walk around.
Yeah.
That's the park, so.
Did Chelsea give you a figure for Triangle Park?
No.
Earlier today, Kevin?
Nope.
Alright. So the park board met and they went through the park master plan,
Yeah,
Parks and Trails master plan. And Chelsea was saying the only thing that she didn't see on here that they wanted to prioritize was spending some money for some playground
I
equipment.
was wondering, cause
Echo
that's
Park.
like number one on the,
Yeah, I think it was playground equipment and fall surface to expand the fall surface area, make it a little bit bigger. And then with the new bark chips and stuff in, so.
okay. So that will go on here.
We'd recommend that we add that in there. Capacity wise, it's, I mean, maybe next summer, but it'd be like late next summer. We've just got a lot going on, so.
Okay.
But we could put it in for, we could put it in budget year for this year, thinking we could start next summer, but it'd be, like I said, late next summer before we probably do anything.
Okay. So, I know this isn't like a capital expense, but just, I think it came up at our last city council meeting, and then we were talking about it earlier, but just in the budget cycle, like trying to make sure we are prioritizing maintenance and having staff for that, for both the streetscapes and parks. Just because I have heard a lot of chatter from folks about, you know, us building new things, but maybe not being able to fully, you know, timely take care of the things we have. So I know that wouldn't go in here, but just if we can keep that in mind.
Is that coming off the skate park discussion, do you think, or where's that coming from?
Well, that's, I mean, I brought it up partly because of the skate park thing. And then I've also just heard other, you know, complaints from some folks I've run into around town or run into in parks, you know, where it's like, you know, we can't mow the grass or we can't, like, you know, trim bushes and maintain trails. Why are we building new parks, kind of a thing? So.
No, I think it's a fair general question, but I
Yeah.
asked for specifics. Is there a park they're pointing to that's not getting
Oh.
maintained? Because I think our parks, we do a really good job of keeping up on. And
So I guess the specific things I've heard were places in City Park. The one I've actually heard, I think, like 2 complaints about is the Scout project for where the like the rails are. It's a little
I think it was a Lions Club project.
okay. I think it was it has like an Eagle Scout plaque on it. But
No, maybe
anyway.
it was.
Just I've heard some complaints that that's not super well maintained, landscaped, and then we were talking about it too, just like complaints about like the bathrooms not being open in Marys River Park. Some other issues with like some maintenance in Marys River Park of like things that will fix them, but it'll take a while to get to. So I think that's I'll think of other stuff, I'll email it, but I think that's where a lot of it's kind of been coming from.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I think there's always a caution, right? We can't build a new park every year and expect that we're going to be built without hiring new people and
Right.
cost money. So yeah, I mean, that's a fair
And I think
general statement of just being prudent, but we're always looking at that. and-
right. No, I'm sure. I think the other part is then with all the new landscaping that's going in with street, like that's almost the equivalent of a new park, you know, like if you have a 20-foot by 7-foot bed every couple blocks, like that easily equals a whole park. And just making sure that will continue to look nice.
Yeah, we'll be hiring a new person, so we are looking to hire, and it'll be I think we're far enough along. I think we're looking at being janitorial, so we're gonna look to have that person be able to do janitorial of the buildings and do some ground maintenance. It'll be like a building to grounds janitorial / maintenance person. So that'll cover some of that. We've needed a new person in Public Works for a few years. I mean, these guys do a great job, and they're always very, very slow to pull the trigger on a new employee, but it's been needed for several years now. But and part-time positions are tough, so we've done a good job with seasonals, which is great, and we'll continue to use seasonals for the downtown stuff as much as we can. I mean, right now it's raining and cold and there's not a lot going on downtown, so you don't want a full-time employee sitting around, so there's a balance. A lot of that work will be more seasonal type stuff, and we can get seasonal help to help with it. But again, we are looking at least one new full-time position that'll do janitorial and take on some of the grounds maintenance.
Okay.
It's just not in here. It'll be on the personnel.
Right, and I know it's not this exact discussion, but just since we're talking about parks, I thought, yeah.
Should the budget number for the sports park, should that be updated?
Maybe.
Well, it does kind of seem like we should know realistically what the cost is gonna be,
Project cost.
and then we have set aside that money already, right?
It's money that we've budgeted, so it's in our land building equipment for that project, the 300 is.
Right. So shouldn't that be like in the project balance or something like that?
Yeah.
And the total cost is 600.
I just wrote 675 from memory, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that was 6 something, but I think it's probably better to put 7 by the time we get to the.
And where's this? I mean, the council had a little bit of time to talk about it, but it wouldn't hurt to get a little bit more guidance. How does this committee feel about that project as far as time frame? And I mean, we're looking at the CIP right now. Do we want to do this high priority this year, next year, 2 years out? Where is this committee at on that project?
I personally would like to see some additional local support other than just a few people going to a city council meeting or to the park advisory board meetings. And I think that it's fair to ask for some public fundraising of some sort to take place. So I would say that like 26, 27 is probably realistic.
Yeah. I mean, I get the public support thing. I think it'd be nice. I also don't want to have like a double standard. Like I feel like we build a lot of other things without having that. We build a lot with that, but I think I don't want to like put a heavier burden on that particular project than we put on other projects. I think my main concern is just kind of coming back to like we're already building a ton right now of new infrastructure. I think I might want to tap the brakes a little bit and just make sure we like finish all of this and there's no big problems and we're able to maintain it all, and then we're like, okay, take a breath, now we can build another thing. But I just, the idea of like already building one park and a reservoir and a water treatment plant and streetscapes, and no, now let's build another park. It kind of feels like, I think we should build it, and I think we are going to build it, but just, I think it might be good to kind of, take care of our current business and then start on a new thing.
To Councilor Lehman's point, I think that would give it time.
Right, I think so, yeah. I think
The public is-
it achieves the same goal. I think my motivations are just a little different.
And I'm not saying a specific dollar, like, oh, we put in 300,000, that's all we're putting in.
Yeah.
It would just be nice if there was a contribution.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd be great.
No, I appreciate that feedback. So I mean, we can put it out there for the 26, 27 number. I mean, again, the 300 is there now. We can bump it up. And maybe we will to next year, see we'll bump it up. But I mean, I think the grant on that, I mean, I would hope for that large of an expense, that type of project, we'd look to State Parks and Rec grant for local governments, and we've got a 40% match on that. So if we did, if we were to put in 60% of that cost and then try to get, or 40% of the cost, and then just put in there, identify that Parks and Rec grant as the other 60% of it. And then if there's local fundraising that comes in that lowers the city's contribution, then great. And if not, then we've got the money in there anyway. I'm less concerned about the dollars that come in, but I do have some reservations still. I think it was very obvious with the Park Master Plan update that there's a lot of outside influence that went into that survey. And that's not to mean that there's not local support for it. But I am just a little concerned about the drop off, I guess. I mean, we used to have the Babs Build a Better Skate Park folks. I haven't seen anybody with a Babs t-shirt on or anybody from Babs in a public meeting in a year, maybe more. So I am just concerned that everybody's really excited about it and there was a lot of outside influence pushing that. And then we're just not really seeing anything. So we don't want to build a $700,000 skate park and then not have it get utilized by very many people. So we can build a lot of playground equipment and do a lot of other things with that kind of money. So we want to make sure it's a priority for the community, not just for survey respondents, because I do think those are two different groups of people. '26, '27.
Do you know what percentage of those survey respondents were from outside the city?
No, we didn't ask any detailing questions on.
Does it like collect IP addresses or anything?
Probably does. We
Okay.
have to go back through and go back to it was their survey. We didn't.
Yeah,
go
sure,
to the
sure.
Consultant
Yeah.
to put the survey together, so we have to go back. To IPs and all that, so.
Okay.
Again, I don't think there's any secret there that they were spreading that survey far and wide to get
Sure,
as many skate advocates as they could to
Yeah.
Spruce Mountain
I mean-
Survey, so.
I get that. I think on the other hand, though, my thing is like, people wrote in, and only 15 of them were from Philomath. That's still 15 more people than we hear from for most city projects. I guess that's my kind of thing. Is like, yeah, you're right. There was a lot of outside influence, but like, I was out most weeks at the farmers market, and I've been doing Counselor Coffee, and like, people do bring it up more than most things. Like, there is support. Whether I'm not saying it's like 60% of the community would all be out there skateboarding, but I do hear about it more than I hear about most other things we're working on. So I think there is a genuine push there, but
It's kind of ironic that mostly what I hear is, well, that was the #1 priority on the survey.
yeah.
I think that's true though, wasn't
I hear
it?
some of that.
I hear that, but it's from people that are clearly not going to use the skate park that I hear most of the input about the skate.
Yeah.
That's why I would like to see more community involvement.
No, I agree.
Would it make sense to go out with a survey that just have people prioritize a limited number of projects? Like if it were me, I would put bike ped paths ahead of skate park. If I had $500,000. But I know bike ped paths are expensive.
Yeah, we have our Parks and Trails Master Plan. This is clearly a popular project within that. We could kind of double down on that and ask the community to reprioritize the projects that are listed there, but I feel like that's kind of there. I feel like I don't know. It's hard to get away from that. Well, you said this, but did you really mean this?
Right.
Just checking one more time.
Yeah. Before we
Put a
spend
bond measure.
$100,000. So, but maybe, the park, the park advisory board, I think is maybe as good a sounding board as any.
Right,
As
that's
a
what
park
they're-
advisory board, fill
Yeah.
out these priorities, and I didn't watch their meeting or attend their meeting earlier this week. I could run it by Chelsea, and when they went through, they identified Triangle Park as like, hey, this is the high priority project. I don't know how much they talked about the skate park, if it's just a foregone conclusion that it's just gonna happen, so we don't need to talk about it. Or our own park advisory board might advise the council a little bit differently on priorities that they're reading into the or into the park master plan.
So I think that may be part of why you haven't seen as much activity too, because we did put it in the
Right.
plan. And so it's like, oh,
Right.
it's in the
It's
plan.
kind of like nether region of like, we've all committed that we like it, but we haven't actually done it. It's like, oh, they convinced us, but like, didn't convince us to sign a check yet. Yeah.
They convinced us based on the number of people who expressed interest.
Well, and like I said to Izzy at our coffee thing, you can't decide on Monday that you want a skate park and then start building it on Friday. That's
Right.
just doesn't. No.
Right. Well, and that's just like, because then she used the example of like the streetscapes project. I was like, that's been something that's been like
Yeah.
worked on since I was, in
2007.
right, since I was in
Yeah.
elementary school. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's use that as an example.
Right. Yeah. I think that's obviously a much bigger project too. But
Well, a more similar project would be the tennis courts, and
Right.
that was a 10-year push.
Right.
And you can talk to the Haslams
Right.
and any number of people that were involved in that for years.
Yeah.
Fundraising, raising awareness, complaining. I mean, it was an ongoing thing for years and years and years. And the only reason that project happened when it did was because we had the two large amount of park STCs. So we had an abundance, and that was the next project on the list to get
Sure.
funded. So, I mean, all things kind of lined up there, but if we didn't have that large boom in residential development, we wouldn't have had the park STCs to put towards that
Yeah.
project, and it would still be on the list.
Yeah.
So, you know,
So you're saying we need another apartment complex to come in so we can make this meeting?
it would make the skate park that much easier to pay for, but instead,
Right,
we
Matt, get on that.
$1,000 toward of general fund money towards the park, and some of this, again, it's a replacement, right? So it's not even SDC eligible, so it's not gonna help there. This is replacement, so this is general fund tax dollars that aren't going towards other general fund expenses. It's going towards the skate park. So I mean, the city is committed to this project, but I don't think it's unfair to ask for a little bit more local support for a project before you're gonna pull the trigger on it when you're talking this much money. And my argument has always been, if we're gonna apply for that grant, in order to get the grant, we're going to have to show local support. And having it been voted on and put in the TSP and approved by the city council isn't typically enough, because every project that goes there has that level of support. And what that committee is going to want to see is show us the real on the ground grassroots community support for this project.
Right.
You know, when we did Flossie Overman, we had, I think, 5 or 6 members of the park advisory board go to that committee and present and talk about the on-site workshop, and they went on site and they came back and they had 3 different groups throughout these different layouts, and they had kids and adults and then they had a follow-up meeting after that. I mean, they could show the committee that the community was behind this, and we were talking 20 plus people that came to that multiple meetings and helped in the design of that project, and we just aren't at that level of the skate park yet. We had feasibility studies for the skate, talked on design, and we had very small number of people attend those meetings. So we can't use those pictures when we're applying for the grant, because there weren't a whole lot of people here talking about what they wanted to see in the skate park. So that's what I'm looking for, is how do we have a worthy grant proposal, because they take a lot of time and take a lot of energy, and if we can't show that there's community support behind it, like I'm just gonna use Babs because they've put themselves out there. If Babs could hold a couple of events and have 20 or 30 people there to show support for the project, that's really gonna help the application when we're ready to go for it. We just don't have that right now.
Yeah.
It's not just the picture. We can't show a lot of support outside of the park master plan and the survey that was done.
Didn't Babs at one point say they had $50,000 put toward it?
Yeah, I won't quote, I mean, I've heard a lot of things, but I don't know. I don't know where they're at. Like I said, I haven't heard from or talked to anybody from Babs in over a year. So,
Okay.
All right.
Go team.
How about bike path?
I will just say, I know, like, it is helpful, and I know this is a work in progress, but I do like on here how we actually have all how much money we have in this account and how much money we have. Like, it's kind of feels like we're, flying in the dark a little bit. Oh yeah, let's throw $400,000 on the skate park, and I'm like, I have no scale for like what that means. So here it's like handy, like, okay, we're spending 3,000 of the 11,000 we have, but yeah.
and we will before it's finalized.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is just the next look. And
Okay.
And what are these crossing improvements? Oh, is that the lighting down there on the boulevard?
This one,
Apartments,
yeah. And that's just, we're just like striping it, or what are we?
it's more reflective tape.
And
Okay.
gates and more pylons. I noticed another pylon got knocked off. So.
any idea how many people actually use that?
See some folks.
I think there's
I don't have a number. Anecdotally, I see people regularly using it.
Yeah.
I don't drive it that often, so I don't know. Yeah.
I see people mostly just like if they're walking their dog on the, like, in the Hunsaker Park or something, they'll go over there. Or like going for a run in the morning. Not me going for a run in the morning, to make that clear.
Yeah, I mean, I would say maybe 1 out of every 20 times I go by there, somebody's either just crossed or is about to cross. So I don't know. I travel that fairly often, and yeah, I wouldn't say it doesn't get used. It definitely gets used.
Right.
So
I'm just curious. I've never seen a dog in that little dog park thing there either, though. So
There's been a couple. I feel like you're just not looking, Matt.
it's not out and about.
I love all the lights around that dog park, though.
Yeah.
It's like,
I was thinking,
circus ring.
I'm going to take my dogs there.
Okay. Is that? Oh no, yes.
Disability improvement.
Hey, oop,
I'm sorry.
no, you're good. I don't know why I raised my hand, but I guess I was curious for the city hall thing. Are we moving that to 26, 27, or are we planning to do that this summer?
just phase 1.
Okay.
What is phase 1?
Phase 1 is remodel of the front of the building to make it ADA compatible. We don't have an ADA door currently. We also don't have a ramp at that side to get into the door. Our ramp is down here where the handicap parking is. So we're gonna add a parking space there. We're also looking at extending, I think Christopher had brought up the idea of getting from the sidewalk and across a little bit easier. So we may be looking at that as well, and adding that too. But so ADA accessibility is the big one. And then we're redesigning the lobby and the workstation, so we can add another workstation there. It'll also improve security for staff. We're gonna bring the walls up all the way around, so the lobby will be just the lobby, and then we have the workspace separated. So that staff are a little better protected from yahoos this day and age. So that's kind of the other part. So adding capacity, adding some safety and security for our employees. And then as part of this as well, since we're redoing out front and touching there as well, we're gonna look at some facade improvements to try to talk the talk in our facade with our downtown Timbertown look. So we'll be looking at just adding some elements to the facade to make it look more Timbertownish. Everything that we're doing is, I call it phase 1, because we're really not increasing the footprint of the building at all, which, you know, looking out 20, 30 years from now, as the city grows and we're adding more personnel to departments, everything, eventually we are going to need to expand City Hall. And, but that expansion will more than likely be to the south. We'll be working that way. So everything that we're doing will be on the north side of the building that won't have to get chopped up and redone 10 or 20 years from now. That next expansion, phase 2, will be to move back. And we're not gonna spend money on feasibility. We'll see what that looks like. It's far enough away that we'll do that at another time, but we are confident enough that the stuff that we're doing up front is gonna be, you know, permanent. We're not gonna be.
You go up and preserve the park.
Very expensive. Typically, when a building is built, they determine the foundation and the strength of it based on the weight that's on it. And if you're going 2-story, those foundations have to be a lot beefier than what we built under this building. So to go up, we would have to redo the foundation on this building, not to mention wall structure and all that gets into there. So it's cheaper to go out. Yeah, it's a cost. Then you add ADA compliance and all accessibility and all that into it. So yeah.
We talked about this previously, and I don't remember the answer, but why did we put playground equipment under City Hall?
What else are they supposed to do down here?
Cause I remember we had talked about moving from like vehicles to facilities, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. I wanted to make sure we're not like building a park with playground equipment here or something. That's like just a general playground equipment fund, right? Okay, okay.
It's in the general fund,
Yeah.
so we're just lumping it in there together. It could go under police just as well.
So that doesn't refer to the event space that was proposed?
No. This is more general of, just a placeholder to make sure that we're putting money aside for playground equipment replacement. Because again, it's not STC eligible
Yeah.
typically.
So could that go towards like Triangle Park?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
so when we look at revenue and park, we'll be looking at funds here as one of the potential revenue sources for those funds.
I would like to ask a question about our parking lot, because I've heard it said that our parking lot out here is in terrible shape. And I've noticed that since the freeze,
It does need some work, yes. It's got some cracks right here in the middle. We talked about it at our meeting the other day, it's on my list.
Okay.
I wanna cut out and then have it sealed.
okay. It's amazing to me how many potholes have appeared since the freeze. It's incredible.
That was brutal. Yeah, it was really
It
wild on
was.
the streets.
I mean, I haven't, with a couple of exceptions, I've noticed it more in Corvallis
I agree, yes.
than like Reservoir Road.
Reservoir Road's terrible.
Yeah, really not bad.
What's the road that connects?
Western,
Is that the one?
Yes,
There was
it
some
is.
road where I was like, it
That's
was like every 3 feet there was another pothole, and I was like driving my brand new car, and I was like, this is okay.
although there is a really good one, actually, there's two on Seventh and Main, one on one side of the street, one on the other.
I guess that was just a general question. Should people like be reporting potholes to you, or you just okay? I wasn't sure.
Main Street?
No, like on other streets.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
We do have a link on our website.
Oh, cool.
Report
Okay.
a complaint or whatever
Okay.
you wanna call.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
If they use that, we try to get to it right away.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to look for it.
It's a very useful tool.
Okay, thank you. Other questions on this? Vehicle and
wait.
moving equipment.
Can I ask one question on this?
Oh, yes.
So just for the feasibility study for the library.
Yeah.
Is this, I'm assuming this 600,000 would not to cover whatever they will be proposing? Cause I'm assuming the proposal is more like an additional wing or something on it, or,
Feasibility study is, what do we need?
yeah.
Do we need anything? So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm very interested to look at numbers and use and queuing and lines and all that before we start talking about what an expansion of the library looks like, because we don't know. So, yeah, I don't know yet.
Okay.
But to your point, anything that we do with the library is going to cost more than that amount.
Right.
So we'll
Okay.
be looking to do more fundraising. We'll be looking at the Friends of the Library and other places once we have a dollar number on whatever needs to be done there.
And I mean, I guess that would be part of it, but right now it's for 2029, 2030. When is the feasibility study supposed to be complete?
By the end of the year.
Okay, so then we'd have like 5 years. Okay.
Yeah, that's not uncommon for those to, you have an idea what you want and then capital campaigning for 3, 4, 5 years. And
Maybe, yeah, okay.
those will take some time.
Rolling equipment, are we ready to move on?
Let's roll.
Rolling stock. is a trailer mounted aero board?
Trailer mounted arrow board is just like it sounds. It's a trailer mounted arrow board that tells you go left or right.
Oh,
We've identified a need for it, and we don't have one. I'm asking that we try to purchase one this independent budget year. So cool. We do a lot of stuff on Main Street. As soon as these guys get done, we'll be back doing maintenance on it, and we really recognize it.
thank you.
And it's just an arrow, it's not like one of
We're
those you
we're not
can
buying
put.
a message.
Okay, okay.
Message boards are, I've had plenty of people outside of our industry tell us don't buy one because you gotta maintain them. Every time you turn it on, it wants to do a system update, and they're $20,000.
Okay, okay.
Just not,
We bought two of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, same problem.
Okay.
it's, if you don't use it every day,
Right.
these guys use it every day, it's,
Right.
it literally wants to do a system update all the time. Even the rental place out 4S rental, I called them, they're like, don't buy one. Buy an arrow board,
Okay.
don't buy a message board.
That works for me.
And I recently had occasion to ask our city manager if my street could be plowed. And he said, not likely. Which I interpreted to mean that we don't own a snowplow.
We do not own a snowplow.
Nor would I think it would be.
Now, the problem you have is if you snowplow, snow goes in people's front of their driveway, and they can't get out anyway. So, we talked about it at some council meetings in the past, and that was one of the main reasons. Well,
Okay.
not one main reason, but it's one of the reasons why we don't do snowplow.
Well, I would imagine you'd only use it about once every 5 years.
Yeah. This was the first year we bought this street sander we have now 3 or 4 years ago. And this is the first extended use we've gotten out of it.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
And
we bought it used, so
if there were a snowplow, would that just be something that would like mount on the front of like?
we put it on a
truck or
5-yard
something?
dump truck.
Okay,
We wouldn't buy a full.
right, yeah.
The city does not want to buy one
No.
for 2 days a year,
Yeah.
maybe. So, yeah, I mean, we're talking $200,000 and $300,000
Yeah.
for a full plow.
Do you know how much it? Just one of the things.
We did price those out one time. I mean, it was 10 or 12,000 by the time you hook it up and everything, because you gotta have the hydraulics and.
Sure. Okay.
Another problem with snow plowing is the little dots you see in the roads, those get ripped out,
Yeah.
valve boxes get ripped out. They cause a lot of damage. You can buy rubber, they have a little rubber spacer on it. You can buy those type, but there's a lot of drawbacks with having a plow. There's a lot of good things about it.
Sure.
Not from city though.
They're Hartford cities.
When you have this much snow,
Yeah.
you're driving through and a plow comes through and now it's this much over the end of your driveway.
And it sits there for
Yeah.
a month and you're like, hey, how do I get out my driveway? I don't know if we're just geared up in Oregon. We live in Minnesota.
Right.
They're used to it.
Yeah.
We live in Oregon. Yeah.
No, we're not geared up.
Sell too many snow blowers down to the True Value.
And in this last event, snowplow would have done.
Right.
It's ice.
Yeah.
You know, I want you to know that our coffee with the counselor, we did talk about the possibility of buying a Zamboni.
Really polished that ice.
That might have been more useful.
Did reject the idea.
Well, and you found one in.
Well, you can get a used one for like 30 grand, but you
In
can get
Manitoba.
it here from Ontario.
Yeah.
We can sell tickets here in the parking lot.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
String up some lights, put up a disco ball.
I think this is the slickest spot in town, is right here in the parking lot. What is this meeting?
Just think how fast you could come down off the hill and get downtown. Getting back home would be a little bit of an issue.
Yeah. I can't tell you how thrilled I was to see Lige in his sand truck. It was like, I haven't seen a vehicle in 3 days. And there's a truck.
That road is on our,
We're doing it.
one of our priority streets.
Is it really? Because I looked at your map and it was like, oh, we're not even a priority.
So, so the only thing we'd actually be getting this fiscal year then is that aero board.
I'm looking at, replacing the, tractor.
Okay, because that's, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, no. I got some quotes, they're gonna buy it off the state bid. It came out a little higher than what we had budgeted, so I gotta figure out with, the finance director,
When you say, Gary?
the tractor,
Number 10.
was a 10.
Next page,
Oh,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
You guys got ahead of us.
there we go.
Oh, yeah, the tractor, current one we have has some issues, gotta figure out if we wanna spend the dollars or it's already been, we've already pushed it back a few years.
Sure.
We try to replace things. Starting to cost us more money than they're worth. And right now, we're looking at it, quite a bit of replacement needs to be repaired.
Do you, not, the- we have like 38,000. Do you know if it was
Price
like,
was 40.
okay,
Okay. 48?
okay,
That was off the, and that is off the state bid.
yeah, okay.
However, they're both general fund items. The police department, since they don't have a representative here to protect their interests, business.
So I'm talking.
Okay.
You guys wanna
Yeah.
move some of your?
I'm on the police.
Darn.
There you go. You can authorize it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
What is the Ford F-150 in the police?
That's the one, Ken Rubin drives.
Oh, I didn't realize we owned that.
That's the city vehicle.
Okay,
I think he keeps the plates off it, cause it's kind of.
okay.
Got a full light detail.
Right.
thing, so. Those $55,000 vehicles are in the $70,000 now. I mean, just the price of vehicles is up, and this hasn't been updated in a few years, so we will be updating those numbers to reflect actual cost of those vehicles now. Price just keeps going up.
I did get some rough numbers for a new street sweeper. We have 350 budgeted. If we wait 2-3 years with the new carbon emissions that are coming out, they said that we can easily look over 450 for a street sweeper.
Wow.
Perfect.
Great. So I don't know how.
Electric version, electric one.
They, not, that one's not electric. They do have a hybrid, but this is just the new carbon, a reduction act that's going into effect in 2026. All the big trucks, the diesel trucks and stuff, are going to be 30, 40, 50 grand more easily.
See, I was in Albania, this was a little while ago. But it was only about 4 or 5 years since the government transitioned from being part of the Soviet bloc to being independent or whatever. And they did no street sweeping, street cleaning whatsoever. And the main highways, you could still see the pavement, but any side streets, there was just like an inch of just dirt. That was just on top of the pavement. They had like paved streets, but it was just on top, and they called it urban silt is what they called it. And it just was gonna keep filling in, and they're like, yeah, if we don't do something about this, pretty soon we'll just have dirt roads again. Build up the sidewalks eventually. That's crazy, so.
Well, you know, as well, we need the street sweeper just to keep the stuff out of the creeks and.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause that's logically where it's gonna end up, right?
Yeah, when we updo the street sweeper, it goes to the landfill.
Right.
It gets picked up and goes to the landfill, so it's not ending up in the rivers.
Other business. You have 2 items when Christopher and I were at coffee with the counselor. Someone brought up putting in, I don't know if it was Janet or
It was, Janet Selby.
but she had called you guys and talked about putting in a crosswalk. I think it was on
It's on 15th and Applewood.
15th now.
I told her once it gets above 60 on a continuous basis, the heat
Yeah.
tape, it has to be above 60.
Yeah.
It is on my list. I got the material now, I just need to do it.
Would that be part of the whatever Or is it just kind of
I think it needs to
miscellaneous?
happen. It
Okay,
progress center should have one.
okay, okay.
It's a major crosswalk right there.
Yeah.
Applegate. I think it is in the TSP.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was one of those safe routes to schools carryovers.
So it would make sense as that. Wait, and so 15th and Applegate is
It'll be on the
which?
15th Street. side.
Okay, okay, cool.
It'll run east-west.
Okay.
And I wanted you to know that one of my neighbors called Kevin.
Oh.
I can't remember.
Uh-oh.
What's it called?
I can't remember
I'm still here.
what he talked to you about, but he was so impressed with you.
Oh.
That you knew your stuff, and he said it seemed like he really cared. Well, of course he cares. Anyway, it was really wonderful to hear that. Go, Kevin.
I didn't hear anything.
I'll put it
I
in.
was doodling, sorry.
it.
I was doodling.
That'll-
I had a really random question. You want to talk about off topic, but and we can follow up on this if that's better. But Reservoir Park, is the green, like all the oak trees to the north of Reservoir Park that are currently owned by the HOA. Want those? Could we have them? Why don't we want them?
Why would we want them?
To expand Reservoir Park so then it can connect to the bike path on the other side through the sidewalk. And because there's already a little inlet from the bike path onto that cul-de-sac and then a sidewalk that comes right up to those trees. And so that could make the park a lot bigger and have more connectivity to the other side of Newback Hill. I put thought into this.
We've had meetings about that.
Okay.
The green space there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've backed off from all those. There's a lot of maintenance that goes into there. There's actually a lot of deferred maintenance that hasn't been done along that strip.
Along the strip they own or we own?
Along the strip that they own.
Okay.
The HOA has not been real diligent about getting in there and keeping that cleaned up. There's actually a walking trail through a lot of that
Well,
area.
I walked through part of it and then it kind of like petered off. Yeah.
It's not been kept up.
Okay.
Because they're just not put money into it. And so,
Yeah.
you know, the city takes that over, then it becomes a city responsibility to maintain all of that. And again, you're talking about maintenance, it's just one more expense and for what benefit. So I think the last park master plan, we actually had that part of like a
Okay.
park trail was to
Yeah,
do that
yeah.
trail and go down the north side of
Right.
Newback Hill and connect in there. And it came off the list just because it was just expensive and just the maintenance on it alone was going to be pretty expensive to do. So, you know, it's, we look at it, I mean, I question how many bikes would get on there. It's a pretty,
Well, not for bikes necessarily. I mean, people walk on. I was more thinking for walking. I
walking
just
trail, but yeah, I wouldn't, you'd have to be pretty tough to be getting a bike up even.
yeah, no, sorry. I didn't mean bikes at all. I mean, if you want to, sure. And then the other one was the city owns that little lot where like little connector between Main Street and College Street on the east side of town blips up. Like where the Welcome to Philomath sign is. We own the piece to the north of that. Is there any plan with, what are we doing with that? Do we know? It's just, cause that seems, if there's anything we can do in the future, just even putting like a little trail or something in there, that's a nice,
It's really wet.
Right,
It's all
right.
wetlands there.
even like a boardwalk, I know it's
We've got
more.
an agreement with the neighbor to the south to be able to utilize their driveway to potentially access that spot. In my mind, that was always contingent upon whatever was gonna develop to the north of that.
Right,
We talked
right.
about that being a regional hub, kind of a public-private or mostly private development up there that could be kind of a natural area. That Mike could use, 2 or 3 parking spaces, people could park and get out like a trailhead kind of.
Yeah, right.
But right now, it doesn't go anywhere. There's no walkway along Newton Creek, runs right there. It's Newton
Right.
Creek, so
Right.
you know, eventually, if there's a boardwalk or some type of walkway along Newton Creek and all that gets developed, that'd be cool, but right now, there, you know, it's nothing really out there. So, we own it. I don't think we'd ever give it away, cause I do think it'd be a cool spot for a little trailhead to
Yeah,
explore, but it's so wet in there, you talk about what it would cost to mitigate the wetlands and what are you
Right.
getting for it other than a few parking spaces.
Right.
Speaking of trails, do we know if our legislature is gonna do anything about the recreational immunity?
I don't know, just because my boss is not on any committees. Well, judiciary, if it would come through there. I don't know if it would go through like natural resources or judiciary, but I do know you've gotten lots of emails about it. So,
We would be getting one more.
I will check. But yeah, I think we all agree it's something that should be fixed. Okay, I don't know. I guess like, yeah, I is we talk a lot about like pedestrian stuff, and we have the whole park and trail master plan, but I feel like we haven't. There's not a lot of progress there, and that feels like a relatively. It's like it's literally connecting like a city bike path to a city park through a unused strip of land. So it just felt like kind of low hanging fruit, as opposed to some of these other ones that are like the city would have to like acquire right of ways and like do all this stuff through land we don't own and through thing that we could check off the list. But
Yeah, the other point to that is they've had slides there
Sure.
on the north side, and so I think at the time that we were looking at, they actually had another slide happen, and so that's kind of what wiped it off the list. It was the concern about the ongoing cost, but when we had the slides, and then it took months before they went out there and actually cleared out around the fire hydrant where the slide had come down and intersected. I mean, it was several months before they even got out to do that. So it was like, if we're not even gonna maintain and take care of the fire hydrant stuff, and so, that was less exciting as well on what the capacity would that be. If we get in there and start mucking around and putting concrete down, then we're gonna cause more slides or have more instability. It's not something the city wants to own either. It's not a problem we want to inherit or be given. I think the HOA would be more than happy to give that property to the city. I don't think it's a property that we want. It's not a liability that we're looking at. So, I mean, kind of the bigger picture, and then you would have the ongoing maintenance of it. But I kind of forgot about the slide until we started talking a little bit more. So that's concerning. And the other part is too, I mean, most of that walking area is really, it's owned by the HOA. The HOA homeowners up there all pay into that HOA. And frankly, I think those HOA owners, I mean, I'm not gonna take my dog and walk up in there when I live down on the south end of town. And so in some ways, if I'm in an HOA and we've got an HOA area and it's got natural walking trails, then the HOA should be maintaining that. Why should city residents be paying for that if it's more of a kind of private, secluded, behind the houses walking trail? That's open to the rest of the public to use, or not that, easy to use. I don't know. To me, anytime the HOA can take over ownership and maintenance on a amenity like that, the better, because then the city doesn't have to pay for it. But
Didn't we also hear some concerns about a trail being, you're going over people's backyards, you're looking down on their houses, there was concern about stuff like that.
yeah, but
Already,
already
that happens everywhere, we got a pipe
right,
that goes right through
right,
the east of
yeah.
the creek, but we did hear some concerns about, hey, I'm in my yard, I'm sunbathing, now I've seen people running, that thing.
yeah, no, I mean, I think there's lots of concerns. I get with wanting to expand, again, that's why it was on the list
Right.
originally. If you look at the last version of the park master plan, it was on there as a future
Right.
trail. It would require negotiations with the HOA, and we did explore it for a couple of years, but we backed off it, and it didn't get included in this most recent Parks and Trails master plan, just because of all the issues concerning it. So
I guess, sorry, we can wrap this up. I don't mean to.
It's okay.
I guess like I'm just at a little bit of a loss for what the trail piece of the park and trail master plan is for, because it feels like a lot of them would require a lot of the issues you're talking about. Like there would be a lot of right of ways or mitigation or liability things, or us taking on additional responsibility and additional liability and additional, maintenance. So like if everything you're saying is true, like what on there is that not a, like, I feel like we talk a lot on council about like, oh, we already have this trail master plan, but I know I just advocated for not taking on any new projects, but like these projects will be wrapped up in a couple of years and then we can. I do think having more connectivity and trails and everything would be great. And it feels like we're not, either they don't make any sense, like the one along the railroad tracks, or we always find reasons not to do them as opposed to things we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it is geared, and you look at future locations for future trails, a lot of them are tied to future development, so that when a new subdivision comes in,
Yeah.
then we can point to the park master plan and say, hey, as part of this, you need to include a 8-foot wide bike ped path along the
Right.
southern boundary of your development and
Right.
sidewalks. So
Right,
all of
right.
Mill Pond Crossing, the main reason that they're putting in that bike ped path along the whole southern boundary of Mill Pond is because it was in the Parks and
Right,
Trails Master
sure.
Plan. Otherwise, they're like, hey, the city standard is sidewalk, so we're just putting it in a 5-foot sidewalk along
Right.
here,
Right.
So it has led to additional bike and ped pathways, but it's tied to future development. And when that future development goes in, we've already identified an area for
Right.
those future trails. You know,
Yeah.
the big ones along East Newton, so
Mhm.
the current Hunsaker path that ends at Applegate. If and when
Right.
south of Applegate develops, we have a Parks and Trails master
Right,
plan that
right.
shows that trail continuing
Kind of
through
like
that
chapel or whatever.
through that future subdivision. So when they come in, we'll say, hey, by the way, in the pre-application meeting, there's a trail system that goes through here and you're gonna be responsible for doing that as part of your development. So that's really the point of it. There's other areas in town where those trails and connectivity weren't added in.
Mhm.
Before I go to there, another example, the neighborhood just east of the school district, it was the same thing of the middle school. They've got a trail there that connects from that subdivision directly into the schools. That's because that was identified in the Parks and Trails Master Plan as well. So that's a recent one, as of 4 years ago that got done, only because it was in the Parks and Trails Master Plan. That one, the school district maintains, because the majority of it's on the school district property, and they agreed to that, but it's great connectivity. So we do see the benefits of having those trails on there, but what you're talking about is trying to retrofit in neighborhoods that it wasn't planned for.
Well, I get
that weren't developed, and so now you're trying to go back in and retrofit, and it's always more expensive than going after the fact and try to
Yeah, I guess
do that stuff.
what I'm trying to say is the reason I'm bringing it up is because those retrofitting trails are also on the trail master plan.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's like, should we just take them off? If
That
we're
one's
gonna
not, though.
do- No, but like the one along Newton Creek or the one along the train tracks, or there's lots of ones that are that I like look at Newton Creek and I'm like, how are we gonna put in a trail here? So I guess I don't know. I guess I either would like, one way or another, I feel like I would like the master plan to align more with reality, whether that's taking some things off the master plan because we're like, that's never going to happen, or putting a little more effort into how can we make it happen if it's on the master plan. But yeah.
Well, again, I think on those examples that you've given, most of those are subject to future development in and or around those properties.
But I mean, like Newton Creek, like there's already development along the whole thing from the park to the highway. And from right? Like how would future development, and there's a trail on the master plan there. Like it's going all the way from the park up through Applegate, through the highway up to that
Like north of where College Street splits off. Where
Yeah.
the loan sign is.
that, and then down through on Green Street, and then down to Applegate, and then down through those houses to the park. Like that's all on the master plan. I don't see how we're gonna put a trail in there.
Like I said, to me, that spot would be developed when everything north of that develops, because I don't see a lot of benefit in a trail system that goes across the highway. So you're
Right.
really talking about a trail system that starts there and goes north and nothing.
Yeah, I mean that'd be great.
developed.
Yeah.
So when that future park, if that property owner comes in tomorrow and says, hey, we're ready to build this industrial complex, I'll say, great, look at the park master plan. It calls for a trail system up and through here, and you're gonna need to incorporate that into your development. But prior to that, you're right, it doesn't, there isn't really a way for the city to go in there and make all that happen. And I don't know that it's necessarily appropriate for the city to be spending a lot of money on
Right.
trail systems throughout. I mean, we're not the county, right? We're not a county where you go out to the county park and you take a big trail. We are the city, and there's a limited amount of open spaces and parks and trails and all that we're gonna do because we are an urban setting. And so what we're really looking at is connectivity between neighborhoods and schools. And our code is developed that those things are going to happen, right? As future development comes in, where it makes sense to do that, like, you know, we're punching 16th Street through to Cedar. That's a retrofit that could have been done 70 years ago. It wasn't. So here we are 75 years later and we're doing it now. But that's a great connectivity piece that's gonna have as much bike ped traffic on it. Well, there'll be a lot of vehicle traffic as well, but just as much bike and ped connectivity there with everything that's connected as anything else. So you know, that's a urban, you know, it's not like a nature preserve or a nature walking area, right? I mean, it's not like I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying. The connectivity is important, but I think we have to be realistic about what we can really afford to do and where you're getting the most bang for your buck. These are general fund dollars typically. And when you're talking about, you know, where to effectively spend the money and how many people are utilizing those things, it goes back to the conversations we had earlier. It's all about projects where the money goes for. And if we've got extra money that we've got floating around to spend on things, then we can start looking for others. But I've got a whole list of stuff in that park master plan that we can't afford to do today.
Right.
That again, we just need to prioritize it through. So not to say we can't add other things as they become higher priorities, but
Is Letman putting in any trails?
along the RV park, he is 19th Street. He's got a connection from the RV park off of the road that'll connect down and connect in onto the sidewalk system eventually at the kind of south end of 19th. Yeah. So I think it's along the 20th Street route right now. It kind of comes in and then eventually cuts over back to 19th.
And do you have any updates on the Northern Wood, like boardwalk piece that we got
Engineering submitted. It just went to the city's engineer and they're preparing the bid docs for it to go out. So yeah, the engineering's done at this point. It's getting ready for bid.
When are they planning to keep expanding that? Cause I know they had some problem with like water or something, like they needed a connection and then they wanted to keep building. Is that?
Well, so there's two projects. There's a water loop that needs to be finished off, and then there's the sidewalk that needs to be done. I haven't heard anything from them as far as plans on like the next phase.
Okay.
They're still paying for the first phase, so I don't know. I haven't heard a time frame from them.
Okay.
I think the water connection was that the city required.
We require them to loop the water system through. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've got occupancy. They've provided with us a bond, and we know the work's getting done. So we've given them occupancy to be able to be in there. But yeah, I don't think there's any. You know, I don't think they're like waiting for that to get done before they start phase 2. I think their next phase is
Okay.
on their timing. I don't think it's contingent on waiting for anything else to get done. I do know they're stayed across the street. They're still.
I saw they bought
I
that.
think they're just
yeah.
taking up a lot of space. So
Yeah.
they're growing, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, anything else? All right, that I will adjourn today's meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.